Hello, everyone. Kim Kaiser here, streaming to Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube here late on. Gosh, it's a Friday afternoon here in Texas. But I wanted to make sure that I came on because I've been on vacation in Montana for the last 10 days or so. And I had a story that I want to share that came up recently in a session with a client, and I have that person's permission to share. So I wanted to make sure that I came on while this transformation was really fresh in my mind. And yeah, so if you're here live today, of course, I love hearing from you all. I know, again, an oddball time, but I'm really trusting that whoever needs to hear this message is going to stumble onto it at some point. So if you happen to catch this replay and you're here, I'd love to know that as well. And as always, you can post a comment, but if you'd rather reach out to me personally, via private message, that's always welcome as well. So, I want to talk through something that I see happen in many, many of the businesses that I work with. Not every business, but probably 80 or 90%. And it has to do with employees. And it's not about employee retention, which is a hot topic right now. And it's almost the opposite of that. So, one area of business owners that I work with a lot are people who have been in their businesses at least 5 to 10 years, a lot of times way more than that. And they've hit their stride, they're already successful. And usually when I'm working with that level of business owner, the people that already have success, that have been around the block a few times, they tend to like have things in their businesses, and some of you all may be able to relate, like things hanging around in their business that they really wish could resolve themselves. And in fact, that's a lot of times why people come to me, is there might be something happening in the business that's been happening for a really long time, and they can't find a way to get out of the situation itself on their own. And so a lot of times they'll bring me in because truly life is too short to like resent your business and have a lot of strife built up in it. Okay. So the situation I want to talk about today has to do with employees, and it has to do with a situation that I see a lot, which is when a business owner has an employee, usually it's one employee that is in a lot of ways, in some ways at least, very valuable to the company. They hold a high level of responsibility. They have a lot of balls in the air, this person, but there's also, and that usually the person has been with the company for a while, has been with that business owner for a while. But there's also this like, how would you describe it? Like, there are ways that the employee is not actually performing in a way that is healthy for the business, not completely moving things forward, and especially around the relationship with the business owner. Like, there's something in that that's causing a lot of resistance for the business owner, that's causing a lot of time and energy to be wasted for the business owner in this sort of conundrum of like, wow, this person sort of handles all this stuff, but they also like do a lot of things that sort of turn it like there, it's the opposite, it's not productive, and it takes a lot of my time to manage this. And so like, when I used to work for the office, here's how we would characterize it without going into the details of my client who gave me permission to tell the story, going into the details of that situation. It's sort of like if you have a canoe, and you're paddling your canoe down the river, and every team member that you have has a paddle, they have a seat, and everyone's rowing in the right direction, they're in the right seat, that sort of thing, they're going the right speed. And then you have this one employee who, they're trying really hard, they're making a lot of effort, but they're like turned backwards in their seat, and they're like rowing twice as fast maybe, or twice as slow as the other people, and maybe they're whacking people with their paddles. And so while there's a lot of effort and that sort of thing going on, what happens when one person in the canoe is not rowing in the right direction at the right speed and is whacking people with their paddles? So if you've been a canoe person, if you've been a canoeist, is that a word? You know that the canoe goes off track. And so this is what my client was finding for herself. Okay. And with one person, like, there were some things that were really good that this person was doing, but like the overall trajectory was the person in question was causing a lot of strife and had a lot of responsibility. Again, there were things that this person hired other people and trained other people, but then the people weren't quite right. And it was just, and it was on and off. And like many of my clients, the person I'm talking about today, like this had been going on for a long time. So you can imagine, like when these situations go on a long time, sometimes business owners can kind of think like, what's wrong with me that I can't deal with this? I see that a lot. Nothing wrong with the person, nothing wrong, right? Nothing wrong with you. But sometimes you just sort of need an outside perspective. So we were looking at this, and what really probably needed to happen, maybe even several years ahead of when it happened, but like it was just time for this person to go, right? And again, I'm sure somebody who's watching this couldn't maybe potentially relate to this. It was time for this person to go. But my client was really, she's a highly responsible person. She is amazing at what she does. She's top in her field. And, like a lot of us, when we're looking at a problem in a business, sometimes, like as the business owner, like I'm going to look at myself first. And that's probably what she did as well. That's what she was doing as well. Well, when it came down to it, like there just became a point of no return. And she ended up finally, parting ways with this person. And immediately, what was really fascinating, and I'm going to get to why these things happen, but like what was really fascinating to me is immediately there was a revenue jump in the business. Immediately. Of course, which I know that's going to happen because like I tell all of my business owner clients that if you have someone or something, not always a person, but if there's something causing resistance in your business that you're spending a lot of time, energy, and effort from an energetic standpoint, it is going to diminish your revenue. It's going to diminish your profit. Like it can't happen any other way. It doesn't have to be logical. It's an energetic situation. So so immediately her profits went up, and interestingly, the rest of the year they went up. Like it wasn't just a little bit. And this isn't a business that was decades old. Okay, so like their logic didn't even make sense here, really. But that happened, and then there was a transitional person who came in, and then the staff is amazing. What we were reflecting on earlier this week was just the transition and the transformation she's had as a business owner just over that one piece. And that's what I really want to share today, because to me, there are a lot of aspects about it, but the two that really come to mind are what I want to share today. How do we get through these situations? Like if I were to tell you like, oh yeah, just go fire the person, that's not it. That would be doing you a disservice. Okay. And I don't ever want to do people disservice on these lives. I want to kind of get underneath like why did this really happen the way it happened, and so that you can sort of like think about these things on your own. So when we were really digging in about this and seeing, because it's a huge transition, what she was reflecting on this week was how happy she is with her staff. And this has been a long time coming. Okay. And I know some of you who've had businesses for a long time, you can probably relate to this. Happy with the staff, like really happy, like with all the positions and with all, yeah. And we were reflecting on like, wow, that's a huge transformation, because it was one of the things of like, if she could just go in and do her expertise, she was always gold and she was always amazing at what she did, all that sort of thing. But the piece on having employees and having staff, it was a really like it was tough. And this is true for many business owners. So I really kind of boiled this down to a couple things that I saw in her that we facilitated a transformation on. And that's what I want to share. And I think the first piece is, and this sounds super simple. There's some deep work that has to go along with this. But one of the pieces is that she allowed herself to to basically say to herself that she could have what she wanted in her business. In other words, she didn't have to settle for anything in her business. Okay. Now, a lot of you are like, you're of a paradigm where we think, well, it's 90% there, or it's 80% there. I should be happy with what I've got. Like, the conditioning around that is really massive. But you don't have to settle, right? So, but she had to get to a point, like, we did some work around her getting to a point where she could have everything in her office the way she wanted it, including the staff. Like, she really allowed herself to receive that. And again, that work is tricky because all of us have grown up, not all, the majority of us have grown up in a society where you sort of sit down and shut up and be happy with what you have, right? You get what you get and you don't throw a fit. That's what they used to tell my son at preschool. And that's just not true. That's not true. It's a paradigm, but it's absolutely not true. So we had to get her to that point. Here's the second biggie, and this is I don't know if it's bigger, but it's huge. She had to get to a point where she trusted herself and her judgment enough to know and trust whatever, the universe, life, whatever, that if she was going to make this separation with this person, that it was all going to be okay. Like, she had to get in and really trust herself. Again, the work we did around this was very deep, right? Because we don't want to burn bridges with people. We don't know what's going to happen when we let them go. Like, we don't really know when we part with someone what's going to happen. Oh my gosh, what if we don't find anyone nearly as good? What if it's worse, right? Like, that's a fear people have. Again, a lot of times we have fear on the other side of the problem, right? But like, and that's not what happened for her, of course, because she became an energetic match for a higher situation, right? And that's the piece we were really celebrating today, is just her own up level, her own trust in herself, her own trust in it would all work out. Her trust in me, although I didn't say you need to do this, like, it's always their choice. It's always their choice. Her trust in God, the universe, life, to bring her the right people, her trust in her own transformation, that she'd be able to hold whatever happened. Right. And so this is a really big piece. So these are two things that are really related, but required. Like, you can't just go in. I mean, you can, people do this all the time. Like, if you just heard the surface level of what my client and I worked on, then you go like, oh, well, I'll just go in and like get rid of that person. But that's like, if you just go in and sort of pull somebody out and put somebody back in without the energetic work, without the it's much more below mindset work. This is not something you can kind of like go in with your mind on. This is much more energetic work. It's deep feeling work. It's work that men and women in business are not necessarily doing very much. Like, it's not mainstream, but it is the work that I do. So it's going in and getting, developing that trust in yourself and the bigger system of things. And then you're able to make those changes, right? It's not, I'm going to stress this again, it's not just going in and pulling people out and putting people back in without doing the energetic work. When people do that, and I've had people do that before, where they just want to make a change. They just want to like pull the Band-Aid off and put it one back on. But without the energetic work, it comes back around. The same problem comes back around. Okay. And so that's what I wanted to just share with you all today, because the thing is, when you've had a business for a long time, especially again, when you've had it 5, 10, more than that, you might think, well, what I have now is just reality. I hear people say that all the time. When someone tells me like, well, the reality is, I know they're really stuck in a paradigm that's not working for them. Right? Doesn't mean it's reality, but they're stuck in a paradigm that's not working for them. Yes, we can get out of those things. It takes energetic work. That's absolutely what I want to say today. And it takes building trust in yourself and believing on some level that you can have what it is you want and that you can have your business the way you want it. Employees don't come built with built-in problems. Like, that's not a thing about employees. That's a thing about your paradigm. Okay. It's, and I could go on and on and on about that, but I don't want to. I want to really keep to this simple point. So if you are like tracking with me and you're here, I would love to hear that you're tracking with me. If you happen to stumble across this video, and I trust that someone who needs to hear this will stumble across it at some point, please comment. I love hearing that y'all are here. I love knowing who is on my lives. I don't see any comments right now, but I don't always see that until later. But I would love to hear that. And as always, my private messages are always open if you have just a more direct comment to me, or want to explore potentially working together. Because these are the kinds of things, they're gnarly for business owners. They're not gnarly for me because I deal with them every day. So I love doing that. I love you all as an audience. I'm happy to be back. I had such a great time on my vacay. I'm going to probably share something about that next week. Actually, just really got into a deeper relationship with myself there, a deeper relationship with my peace and quiet, my place where answers come. And at any rate, I miss doing these, and happy to be back. Bye, everyone.